We are continuing to highlight women who are taking on the vital issues that impact all of us in the upcoming presidential election. Take a look. Andrea Miller is a political and election strategist who's empowering underrepresented communities to fight for their voting rights. In 2018, she founded Center for Common Ground, an advocacy group working with local organizations to educate voters about where candidates and officials stand on the issues, voter registration deadlines, early voting locations, and even free rides to the polls. An investigation by the Center for Public Integrity found that all 50 states had unequal access to voting and political representation, with 26 states offering less access for people of color, young voters, immigrants, and people with disabilities. Under Andrea's leadership, Center for Common Ground has worked tirelessly to make sure everyone's vote is counted, making 2.25 million phone calls, mailing 14.3 million postcards, and sending 7 million text messages, totaling over 23 million voters contacted. In August of 2023, the National Women's Political Caucus celebrated Andrea's commitment to civil rights and equality by honoring her with the Women of Courage Award.
Hi, I'm Deidre Malone, the president of the National Women's Political Caucus. This is our candid conversation for this month. It's with NWPC's Virginia President, Andrea Miller. Andrea, thank you so much for being on Candid Conversations.
Well, Deirdre, thank you so much for inviting me. I was looking forward to this.
Well, look, I want to share with our members and those that follow us a little bit about you before we delve into this conversation, okay? So,
Okay.
Andrea is the founding board member of the Center for Common Ground, executive director of People Demanding Action, founding president of the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia. We're so happy about that. Andrea is an IT and political director and a digital and election strategist. She designs and administers digital phone banks and texting programs. From 2013 to 2015, she led the Progressive Roundtable on Capitol Hill, bringing together members of Congress, activists, and nonprofit leaders. Her expertise is in voting rights, climate, and the Equal Rights Amendment. She has successfully advocated for legislation on both the federal and state level. And in 2008, she was the Democratic nominee for the Virginia 4th Congressional District. Andrea, you've had a lot going on.
It has been an interesting 16 years. I was at the Rural Summit last weekend, and I met my favorite delegate there. He and I were both running for Congress back in 2008, and we chuckled about he had decided he wanted to pursue being an elected official, and I ended up a lobbyist and then helping others get elected.
Oh my goodness. Sometimes it's easier to help others get elected, rather than being the candidate, having been the candidate, having been elected, but also having managed campaigns. I can tell you sometimes it's easier managing campaigns, Andrea, especially if you're like me. I want to control the campaign. And when you're a candidate, you can't control it, right?
Yeah, you can. In 2008, one of my first acts was I fired my campaign manager and took over my own campaign. So I ran my campaign, I ran my website, I ran everything.
So talk to me about when you and the group of women from Virginia started the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia.
Well, of course, you always start with your friends. Who are the people that you are always making good trouble with? Because now you're just giving them another vehicle to go and make good trouble with. So a lot of the folks that were our original founding people were women and men that we had worked together on ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment. We had been integral in removing the ratification deadline at the federal level. I got Ben Cardin to be the Senate sponsor way back in probably 2013. And then I also got Jackie Spear to be the House sponsor when Rob Andrews left Congress. And that was when I was on the Hill all the time. I had originally asked Bernie Sanders to be our lead co-sponsors. And Bernie said, well, he said, I love your bill. He said, I will co-sponsor it. He said, but if you have me bring it out, nobody will get on it. So he said, go down the hall, talk to Ben Cardin, tell Ben I sent you. Ben wants to be the justice senator. This is Ben's thing.
Oh my goodness. But at least Bernie was honest with you. I mean,
Yeah.
he really wanted it to move. So he told you the right person to go to.
Yeah. And you know, and Bernie and I have always had that. Again, Bernie is Bernie. I mean, this is one of the most honest and direct people you ever want to meet. And then at the state level, we also brought in the people who had been advocating at the state level. And our state level advocates, pretty much, they did live in Richmond. But I mean, you talk about advocacy days. These women were in Richmond in those Senate and Assembly offices every day that they were in session. We don't have, well, we did have advocacy days. That was every day, Monday through Friday, that the General Assembly was open. So yeah, that's our idea of advocacy days. It's every damn day.
So Andrea, when you started, you and your team, your members started NWPC Virginia, how many caucuses did you want to try and start across the state?
Well, realistically, there were four. Virginia is really two states. I always explain that to people. You have Northern Virginia, which is pretty much universally known as Nova. And then we have what I call Rova, the rest of Virginia. So we had a Northern Virginia area. We had a Central Virginia, which is where our capital is in Richmond. I'm in the Central Virginia caucus. We then have our Ocean or Hampton Roads caucus. And then we also have Southwest Virginia. And then later on, when we realized we had enough people, we created a Northwest Virginia as well. But we all worked together. It was one big gloppy group because we all like each other.
Well, that's amazing. And as one of our newest caucuses, I mean, you're one of our largest, which is absolutely amazing. I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to talk to California, to our president out there, Sabrina, and they talked about we talked about the priorities for the state. I think people who watch this show probably know that, you know, there's a federal level, there's a state level, and then your local caucuses. You know, as the leader for the state of Virginia, Andrea, what are some of the priorities you have for NWPC for Virginia?
And this is such a timely question. We had kind of an ad hoc board meeting the other night. Our members have voted unanimously that they want to remain part of the VREA group. And these are the folks that are advocating for reproductive rights and reproductive justice. In 2025, Virginia will introduce 3 constitutional amendments. there will be a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the right for reproductive care. There will be another constitutional amendment that will automatically restore voting rights to people upon release from prison. Virginia is one of only 3 states now that has lifetime felony disenfranchisement. And there will also be a marriage equality constitutional amendment on the ballot. So those are 3 big areas for us. And members of our leadership have advocated for affordable housing. So we are working in that space. The city of Richmond has the 2nd highest eviction rate in the country. Northern Virginia has some of the highest home prices in the country. And then family leave and pretty much the standard good human, really important to women and their families kind of things. Plus, the other thing that we do, we have an election every year in Virginia. So we are always about elections in Virginia. We don't have a choice.
Oh my goodness, you all are busy. And it's so good to hear that your state caucus has decided to adopt these incredible items that really need support, specifically from women. So the Reproductive Care Act, let us know at the national level how we can support, and voting rights for those that are formerly incarcerated. I mean, that's an issue that should be taken up across the country, because you have so many people who have been incarcerated and they don't even understand the fact that there is an opportunity for them to get their voting rights back. And a lot of them just don't know how to do it, Andrea. They just don't.
Well, and I've got some numbers for you that are astounding. Our main organization, Center for Common Ground, is a 501c3. So we don't lobby. But what I do is we teach lobbying. So our bill for May was the Inclusive Democracy Act, which automatically restores voting rights to everybody. Now, I knew John Conyers, who originally wrote the Democracy Restoration Act. This bill, it's Ariana Presley's bill and Peter Welch's bill in the Senate, says, look, in most states, in order to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen and you have to be 18 years of age. When you were charged with a felony, you don't lose your citizenship and you didn't get younger. So why are we taking your voting rights away? This bill says people will be able to vote from prison, just like they do in Maine and Vermont, 2 of the whitest states in the Union. And we all know this whole notion of felony disenfranchisement was a way when Black men got the vote to basically kick them off the voting rolls. It was all racist. So again, when you look at Virginia, Florida, Kentucky, lifetime felony disenfranchisement states, Virginia wrote it into our 1902 Constitution. Since the laws are different in every state, people mistakenly believe they can't vote. 80 million Americans have some kind of criminal charge. 19 million Americans have a felony, and 5.85 million live in states where there is a major level of felony disenfranchisement going on.
The numbers are astounding. I mean, I'm just so glad to hear that NWPC Virginia is taking that on as an issue. And then, of course, marriage equality. I mean, you know, you love who you love. You should be able to marry who you love and live the
Right.
life that you want to live, right? And so it just
Right,
amazes
right.
me.
If even with a man and woman, if you are not interested in that man or that woman, there is nobody that says you have to marry them. So why does anyone care as long as they are not impacting you personally? I said, no, go away, and you're still here. That's different. That's a crime. You love me, I love you. We happen to be the same sex. So
Right? Let people live their lives.
right,
Okay,
right. I'm
so
not bothering you. I'm over here. You go over there.
exactly. So I have to say, you know, being in Richmond last year, when I was elected national president, I had the opportunity to meet you. We, of course, had conversations before we actually met, but so many amazing women in Virginia, and had an opportunity to meet some of your elected women at the federal level. And I just have to say, Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, I mean, amazing. And
Yes, yes, yes,
just
yes,
just so you know, and you probably know this, I know you know this, NWPC National had the opportunity to partner with Congresswoman McClellan on a piece of legislation, and was really working really hard with her team to try and find Republican co-sponsors for the legislation around, you know, AI and electronic photographs being sent
right,
around without permission. And so very
right.
proud that we were able to partner with her on that. But you've got to be proud of the women coming out of Virginia.
Yes, yes. And when Jennifer McClellan first won that seat in a special election, I was not there on election night, but a number of people told me that I was one of the people that she thanked because in 2008, I ran for the old Virginia 4th District before it became a majority minority district. And she was like, you know, and I want to thank Andrea for paving the way.
Isn't that something? I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up, because sometimes it takes one of us, a woman, to pave the way for other women to see themselves in elected office. You paved the way for Jennifer. You know, I ran for mayor of Shelby County and became the Democratic nominee the second time I ran, Andrea, and didn't win the seat. But that next election cycle, there were so many women that ran for office
Yes,
and won
yes, yes,
because they
yes,
saw
yes.
themselves in us, right?
Yes, yes. The Virginia General Assembly is now majority women.
That is amazing. That is
Yes,
so
yes,
amazing.
yes.
So,
And that
so
was literally one election cycle. This was the election cycle where all the 70 and 80-year-old white men decided, oh, I'm really going to have to work for my seat. I don't want to do that. Well, and a couple of them decided they were going to run, and we beat them in the primary.
good. So to that point, I mean, you've been doing this a while. You've been helping people get elected. I mean, you're a major political strategist. What advice can you give some of our caucus members about how do we elect more women across this country? Because sometimes we can be timid. We don't want to run, even though, I mean, we have the ability, we juggle so 50 zillion things. We're very analytical in our thought process. What advice would you give our members across the country to try and see the value in running for office?
Well, there is a tremendous value, and what I want to see is I want to see more women campaign managers. We lost a seat in Virginia by 83 votes.
Mm.
And when I heard what that campaign manager had done. This is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. I could not ever imagine a woman going, oh, you know what? I'm only going to knock doors on 5 precincts, and we're just going to go over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, my jaw dropped when people told me what was happening. We are analytical.
Yes.
I really want to see more women become campaign managers, become the strategist, do what I do, learn the election technology, know it well, and understand that where we are now, our outreach should be to every woman. I don't care whether they vote or not, and I don't care whether they're donors or not. We are not reaching out to all the right people. So when we endorse a candidate, our outreach is to every breathing woman in Virginia.
But you have to be tough. I mean, and I had 2 other friends in that race. It's always hard, but we should manage campaigns because the way we think, and it's not emotional. It's
Right,
it's basically
right,
by the data, basically
right,
by
right,
what
right.
people,
We are data driven. What is the data telling
right.
us? Numbers don't lie, people do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. And so I want to mention to our members and our viewers that, Andrea was on vacation. She didn't get a chance to, with her family, get a chance to attend our Gloria Steinem fundraiser. But those who were able to participate, Andrea, were inspired by her. She's one of the co-founders of our organization. She and like 300 of her closest friends back then. But a young lady from South Carolina. No, North Carolina. She's the Democratic Party chair, the youngest in the country.
Anderson Clayton. Yeah.
Anderson, at the last minute, we were able to get Anderson to participate too. And just seeing the dynamics between the two, it was
Yeah.
amazing. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
For Gloria, it's almost like saying, yes, this is what I envisioned all the way back in 1971. And there it is, made manifest.
Yes, Gloria energized us, but Anderson did too, because we had a lot of college students
Yes,
attend
yes,
the event.
yes.
But
Wonderful.
it was inspiring for me at 61. It was like, okay, young blood, if you can
All
do it,
right, yeah, yeah. And you're 61. I got shoes older than you.
stop it. So I just want to say that I am just so glad you're leading the charge in Virginia because you know how to do it. What advice would you give other states that might be thinking about starting a NWPC caucus?
The great thing about having the caucus is our C3 has partnered with NWPC because of its endorsement powers. So if you want to elect women, then be prepared to go out and do the work. Find a partner that will give you access to the voter file, that has that technical expertise. And so we phone bank for our candidates. We canvass for our candidates. We text for our candidates. All the things that maybe the party should do, but won't do because, let's face it, a lot of times women candidates haven't raised the money, they're
Yes.
not that well known, and then the party goes, we're not going to waste our time. That's when we as women, we get together and we say, we are investing in our women candidates, which is exactly what we did in 2023. We endorsed 38 candidates, 19 won.
Oh my, that's a heck of a record. That's
Yes,
amazing.
yes. And a lot of them were brand new first-time candidates.
You just have to put in the work. Like you
Yes,
said, you just have to put in the work. I mean, put your head down, make the phone calls, text, email, knock on doors, put
yes.
the work in, right?
Yes. And again, we were going after women, and in our script, we told people they've been endorsed by the National Women's Political Caucus, and they will fight for, and it was always reproductive justice, voting rights. And if there was some other issue in a community, fair education or whatever it is, affordable housing, we got that in there too. We rounded out the candidates because we as women, we are more than our reproductive organs, and I refuse to be reduced to that.
I love it. Andrea Miller, President of the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia. If there is someone in that great state of Virginia that wants to join your caucus, how can they reach out to you?
The easiest thing to do is to go to our website, which is NWPC-VA.org. And we've got a great big join button there. Also, we are going to start offering webinars on Project 2025 and how it will run your life, especially as a woman.
Oh, Andrea, this has been an amazing dialogue with you and our candid conversations. So glad you were able to be my third episode for Candid Conversations. And I want our viewers to know that we are in this fight together. So thank you so much for watching Candid Conversations. Follow us on our social media platforms and make sure you subscribe to the National Women's Political Caucus YouTube channel. That's where you're going to find these candid conversations so you can learn more about our caucuses across the country, the great work that they're doing. And we hope that you're inspired by the work that our members are doing in these great states here in the United States. And so until the next time, I'm Deidre Malone, the president of the National Women's Political Caucus. Thank you so much for joining us.